So why should you watch this video on Manor Lords when there are so many to choose from right now? I tell you why, because you get 3 in 1. This is a review, a guide and a let's play all in one package. I start by a short review of the game's current early access state, followed by a let's play where I elaborate as well as provide strategy and tips for the early to mid game. So first of all, is it a good game and should you buy it? It is a good game, it's a really good game. But it might not be a game for everyone or that appeals to everyone. It is a survival city builder with a little bit of Total War DNA in it. You will spend pretty much all of your time doing survival city building things. Planning your city, making sure you have enough food so that your people will not starve, and enough firewood for them to not freeze during the winter. And later produce enough of different commodities to keep them happy. You have to plan resource chains and logistics. That is the main gameplay loop. That is what you will be spending 99% of the time doing. If you do not enjoy that type of gameplay, then this game is not for you. Battles are far apart, and even late game, battles are mostly like the very early ones from a Total War game. You don't have much variety in terms of strategic use for the troops and quite small armies. There are no real fortifications and terrain only plays a small tactical role. The combat is still far better than any other city builder, but let's be honest, that is not a very high bar. Most survival city builders do not even have combat, and those who do usually have some very simplified system. So Manor Lord combat is miles ahead of other titles in the genre, but it's not Total War level combat. Manor Lords in its current early access state also have some serious balance issues and some areas in need of improvement. And there are some aspects of the game that are very far from finished. But if you like survival city builders, then Manor Lords, even in its current early access stage of development, is a must-have. You will love it. If you, however, are not into survival city builders, but you got on the hype train because, well, the hype train, if this genre is not what you usually play, then maybe you should wait until it's a bit more polished. Well, without further ado, let's start with the actual game. When you start a new game, you can create your character. So choosing the name, it will be Ketmol here for me. Ketmol. And choosing a character portrait and also creating your coat of arms. You can spend a lot of time creating your coat of arms. So my only advice here is to click this button, save the coat of arms before continuing. Because if you want to restart, you might not want to restart spending a lot of time making your coat of arms. Let's click continue. There are 3 different difficulties to choose from. Rise to Prosperity. Rise to Prosperity is the kind of peaceful option. Then we have Restoring the Peace, where you have to conquer every area of the map. There is an enemy baron, like AI baron, that you have to fight for it. And also on the edge, where you will get attacked constantly and have to reach large town. You can also tailor these ones to your liking by changing, for example, how many years until the first raiders attack. Let's pick Restoring the Peace and let's begin. Resources, fertility and water will be randomized every time you start a new game. So even if the map will look the same, like the road will be in the same place, the forest will be in the same place, which ones will be rich deposits will be different every time. Also where these ones actually show up on the map will be different, as well as the fertility. If we go into construction, we get this side menu and we can check, for example, emmer. Emmer is a type of wheat, I think. We see we got quite bad fertility for that. Flax fertility also bad. This one will be randomized, so this region might have really great fertility next time we play the game. So if you have really bad fertility, you might want to restart, especially if it's your first time playing. So let's do that. I restarted the game and ended up in this beautiful region over here, and it has great fertility. If we check for ember, flax and barley, we can see it's green everywhere. We don't want to build on our most fertile land, so let's check for that first. We got emmer pretty much everywhere, flax, one quite big region over here, and big regions over here as well, and barley. Barley is very important late game. Unfortunately, not much here, but a quite big chunk of fertile land over here. So I think like this will be a good spot for the farms, and then we could do like the central town over here, because we also got, oh, oops, zoomed out too much. We got most of the resources around here as well. Time to place the first buildings, and here is actually the first thing I think could be improved about Manor Lords. There's pretty much no room for variation in how you start the game. Not just for an optimal start, but unless you want a terrible start, you have to place a certain number of buildings, a certain types of buildings in a certain order, and place 1 worker in each. Let's start by placing the lumber camp, because we need lumber for everything we produce, so we don't want to run out of that. connected to the main road. Don't bother about reforestation early, because there is plenty of forest on the map and you probably want to get rid of some of the forest anyway, so we can kind of bother about that a lot later in the game. I also usually start with a hunting camp. It's better to start with a hunting camp than with the forager hut or forage for berries, because both provide food, right? But the hunting camp also provide pelts that we need quite early to make leather or early game clothes. So let's place those. I also want to connect that one with the road to the rest of the infrastructure here, so maybe something like this. I'll probably move those roads later on, so I'm not too bothered about making it look nice. So that's what we have to start with to build up. Let's go ahead and do that. We got a new message. Let's check it out. This is from kind of the enemy AI on the map. We can write back and compose a letter, but this is one part of the game that is not finished, so all we can really do is just drag this one and click send, and it doesn't really do anything. Anyway, lumber camp, let's finish it. As soon as the logging camp or lumber logging camp is finished, let's place one family or assign one family there to start logging right away, because and we also should assign one family to the hunting camp. So the hunting camp, you got 20 out of 20 animals here. Make sure you don't hunt it down to 0. So I think having it in this case at 10, half the population, is probably a good thing, because then you don't risk hunting every animal and kind of lose the camp. Anyway, let's start with the actual town, and since the farmlands was over here, I will do a central square over here. Let's see, underground water. So I think this is a good place for a well. So we do something like this. I like to start with kind of a central square with some buildings around it, and the reason for that is, well, on the central square, that's where all the commodities are like sold or distributed to the villagers in Manor Lords, or rather your marketplace, right? So everyone had to bring the firewood there and the food there. So I feel it's good to have like a central location for that to happen. And also I will place my workshops that produce kind of bakeries and stuff like that around the central square. Makes them easy to find as well if I want to hold production or change production in the future. Anyway, let's pick some houses. I'll start by probably putting a few over here. We want the houses up as soon as we can because homelessness diminish approval, and before we get approval above 50%, we won't have new families come to our town, regardless if there's space for them to move in or not. So this is what we will prioritize getting built. As soon as we got 4 more timber, we'll build 2 more houses. So let's wait for that. We can now see that a family requests more market area for a stall, and it's the hunting camp. What this means is that he now got some food that he wants to distribute to the other villagers. I now have 2 timber, and I think like the market area is this square, right? So what I will do is I will draw another road over here and kind of plan the market area. I will also place the well. I won't let them build the well just yet, because I don't want to have them spend time building it, but I just want it there so I can place it later without first having to remove the market area. You want a quite large central market, because early game there won't be a lot of market stalls, but late game, if you make a very big town, there will be. So something like this, 70 locations, should be more than enough, at least for the early to mid to kind of late game. So let's place it like this, and now our hunter can come here and sell the food. Back at the settlement where we started, we have a hitching post. This is where the oxen that we start with is located, and it is used to move the timber. We still have 5 timber here, but as soon as we're out of like those 5 timbers, we want to move the hitching post over here. Otherwise the people will kind of go over here to pick up the oxen when they have to move the timber, to later pick up the timber at the logging camp. So that's like the thing we kind of have to keep an eye out for. We now have 5 timbers, so enough to make 2 more houses. I think I will put them over here. So those small kind of houses with a little hammer inside of them, that's the kind of to show that you got place for an extension, like a blacksmith, a bakery and stuff. If you make them smaller, you won't be able to build that type of extension. The other small house on the right hand side with a plus means we can extend the living space so more people can live in that house. So let's make it like this, so we get 1 extension and or rather 2 extension plots and also more living space. Click here. And those are the 2 final houses. And once they are done, we are going to start building the rest of the infrastructure, or the rest of the early game buildings. The oxen is actually picking up lumber directly from the lumber camp and not the supply we got over here first. And I guess it makes sense. I mean, the villagers will pick up the oxen in the morning, take him to work, and then they will just pick up timber wherever is closest, right? But I don't want to move the hitching post just yet, because I don't want to take time from building the houses to the time it would take to put up the hitching post somewhere here, for example. As soon as the first 5 houses are built, your little settlement will become a village and you will get your first development point. Don't spend it now though, because the things that could help us early game would be forest management and trapping, and those developments are kind of useless later on because there's so many other ways we can provide enough food and food variety for our citizens. I will get back to the tech tree a bit later on in the video though. Next thing we want to work on is getting the approval up, and we do that by building a church that will provide approval and providing food variety. For the church we need planks, so let's build a saw pit over here close to the lumber camp, and for food variety we need another kind of food, so in this case foraging, so berries. So let's, unfortunately this one is a bit far away, so like here, and bring the road down. I think like this will be alright, right? Like this. Not much I can do about that one being way out in the forest. We also need firewood. We're not that much in risk of running out just yet, but I might as well plan for it. So I will make a woodcutter's lodge over here as well for firewood. I want to set this one to high priority, so they start with the saw pit. I also want them to start with the granary over here. And since we have enough lumber for it, or timber rather, we can actually build the storage as well. And I think I want kind of a logistics hub and industry area here along the King's Road. So let's just place a granary like this, and the storage maybe right next to it like this, and then put those on low priority so they finish those ones last. And as soon as the buildings here are finished, we'll just start employing people in them. I have placed one family in the saw pit, one over in the foraging hut over there at the berries, which means I have one family unassigned, and I need to keep it unassigned because that's the family that will be transporting and building stuff, right? If you don't have any family unassigned, you have no one doing that type of labor, which means I don't have enough to both employ the saw pit and the woodcutter's lodge. So what I will do is kind of move one family between them. If I run too low on fuel, I will just remove the family here and assign it over here. When you have finished the 5 houses and the storage, you get a new message about forming a militia. This is pretty much just a little bit of arms that you get early on. So some spears, some shields, so you can create kind of an early game army. Let's click this and then form a militia. You do it over here. Place create, or click create new units. You can see we have 20 shields and 20 spears. So we can make the spearman over here. We only have 10 of them though, despite having 20 spears and 20 shields, and the reason for that is we only have 10 male population, so we don't have more, well, population to become soldiers. As soon as we get more population, this will increase. Now we just have to wait for 20 planks for the church. I think it's time we move the hitching post as well. So let's grab this one here and move it over to our like central logistic location over here. I'm a little bummed this one haven't really provided, like they haven't really provided this one with logs yet. So the oxen was simply busy all the time moving timber to all the places where it needed building and transporting, and also storing timber over here. So it was never free for the people working in the saw pit and woodcutter's lodge to pick it up to get timber over there. Maybe some optimization could be done early on, because you could create another hitching post and buy another oxen. It might actually be worthwhile. Anyway, we're almost at 20 planks, or we're actually at 20 planks, so let's build a church, also close to the central square, so I think that will be a good spot. Let's pick it up over here, and this will take some time to build. We also now want to provide more houses, because our approval will soon reach 50 and above, which means we need empty houses for people to move in, right? So I think I will add a few over here as well. I do want those extensions on these houses, so we'll have to stick out a bit here. I don't mind, like this maybe. I also don't need planks for a while, or we don't need planks for a while, so we can remove the person working in the saw pit for now and put him back in the logging camp here. And well, let's get building, I guess. During the first year, you will at some point get a notification that a bandit camp is sighted. You can't really do much about it right now because your 10 troops is not enough to deal with this. So the most likely scenario is that the enemy AI will come and clear this for you. But when he does, then you should rally your troops and move there and plunder the camp. Because I don't know if they plan to fix this or not, but as of right now, you still get money if you go to the camp after the AI have cleared it. And then you can use that money to buy mercenaries to clear other camps in the future. Anyway, enough about bandits for now at least. I think I will just remove the family here in the woodcutter's lodge because we have quite a lot of fuel. So I think I want that family to help building as well to speed it up a bit. Let's speed up time and finish these buildings. If you press tab, you can get some additional information about the buildings. You can see what different types of products or commodities they have access to. They will turn red if there is a commodity they really need that they don't have access to. You can also see if the building is occupied or not. These buildings here are not occupied because it says 0 here. And from now on, you want to make sure that you always have a few unoccupied buildings for your population to grow. It will grow faster as the approval goes up. We also want to get them to kind of level 2 because then they will start to provide us with income. And to get them there, we need a fuel stall, we need at least 2 types of food, and a clothing stall. The fuel is simple. We just put back the person, our family, I took off the woodcutter's lodge, and he will put up a stall. For the clothing, we need a tannery that will convert the hides from the hunting camp into leather. That will be primitive clothing. And for food, I can't really do much. I'll have to wait for more population. So let's speed things up. A new family just moved in, and I will assign it to the granary. The idea with that is that it will actually go and pick up the supplies left here, so we get that extra food stall, but it will also help with, for example, alleviating here up in the forest hut and moving these supplies closer to the town. I also think it's time we build a few more Burgage slots and plan for some really big ones. Because for the most part, it doesn't matter how big the extension slot is for like a blacksmith or carpenter, anything like that, even for a chicken coop. But for a vegetable garden, it does. So you want to plan for a few really big like extension slots on the Burgage slots for those vegetable gardens. I will show what I mean. I will draw up some roads and then I'll place them. I have placed some smaller burger slots here, but like big enough to have room for an extension. But I put them on pause because I don't want them to be built right now. It's just that I don't want my vegetable gardens to be right next to the plaza. I want them a bit further out. So what you do is you place the houses like this, drag this one out quite far, and when you do, you can see you get really big kind of backyards. All that can later be added with an extension, or rather converted with an extension into a vegetable garden that will provide a lot of food. So it's a great food source for your town, and as well it's great for food variety because you need several different types of food for your citizens to be happy. With that done, I think it's time to just build for a while and then we start working on the farm because we want the farm ready by the beginning of the next year. I will pause the building for the last 2 slots here, and a new family moved in, so I will put that family working in the tannery to provide that additional clothing that will make it possible to upgrade these buildings to the next tier to start earning us money. But also I want to start constructing the farm. So let's check fertility. So underground water we don't really have to care about for the farm. So we got ember, flax. So this should be a large field. And barley also here. So I think the farm, we can place the farmhouse around here. Let's do that. So we go into farming, and we have the farmhouse, and we place it here, and we also have to draw up some really big fields. So we check the barley again, and the emmer. Was it flax? Yeah, flax over there. Okay. So the barley was the tough one. Let's see. We have one really nice field over here that we can take. Like this. 2.7. That's actually rather large. I think I want a bit smaller fields. So something like this. We draw up another field over here. Like maybe like this. And also, let's check flax again. Yeah, it's overlapping quite well. And barley, back to that. And then maybe one field then like this maybe. That's 1.7 Morgan. I think that's alright. Like this then. Right, and also one field over here. I think that will be alright to start with. Once we got the farm built, we want to immediately add an additional ox. Let's head into the tech tree. So your first tech point should actually be spent on the heavy plow. The heavy plow enables using an oxen at the farmhouse, and that speeds up your farming significantly. The following ones here, like fertilization and bakeries, are not that important. You actually do very fine without them. But the heavy plow, I feel like, is a must-have. I changed my mind in regards to the position of the farmhouse, so I demolished the one I had over there and just put a new one over here. It wasn't built anyway, so I didn't lose time doing it. I think we also, in preparation for this one getting finished, will actually order another ox. You don't need the livestock trader for that. You can do it directly from the hitching post. Just make sure you actually have stable space. You can say we have stable space 1 out of 1 here. So for that to be possible, we need another hitching post. So we can just place the other hitching post over here. It won't run away before this one is built. So I can just put this on priority, and then we order the ox like right from here. Order another ox that later will be employed up here. We also have to prepare the fields a bit. So you choose what type of crop you want to grow. You want wheat for food that we can bake into bread. We also want barley, because barley is used to make ale that we serve at the tavern, and that's important once we want to upgrade our Burgage slots to level 3. We will need that. We also need additional type of clothing, as well as kind of padding for the armor for our what you call it, our troops, right? And we need linen for that we get from flax. And I made 4 fields, and let's just put this one to wheat, so to make sure we have enough food. Now if you keep growing the same type of food like all the time in the fields, you will lose fertility, and we can alleviate that by having crop rotation. Fallow, having the field like empty for one season, will also regenerate a lot of fertility. But let's switch this one to barley, and then the year after that to flax. Here we do something similar, but we do wheat, and then we do flax. Over here, let's say barley, and then wheat. And the last one we do wheat, I don't know, barley, flax. I most likely will add additional fields as the population grows, but it kind of takes a lot of manpower working the field. So I am not sure I will be able to kind of have enough manpower for more than this amount of fields to start with. Now let's build the farm up, employ the oxen and that extension slot, and then we're kind of ready to head into the mid game. We finished the farmhouse, and we can add the plowing station. Once that is constructed, we need to actually assign an ox to it. You do that by clicking advanced and then assign livestock like this. Now one of the oxes, like at the hitching station, will actually work at the farm. We can actually upgrade one of the houses right now. I don't want to upgrade too many to level 2 because even though they have everything they need, we will run out of the additional food source here very quickly, and then they will affect the approval negatively, which will affect our growth negatively. But I want to upgrade at least one, and the reason for that is to be able to pick up kind of the blacksmith, and I would want to actually upgrade 2, and the joiner's workshop. The joiner's is where you produce shields, and the blacksmith is where you produce weapons, so we can start increasing our army size as well, or prepare for that at least. You could do bows as well, but bows in the current patch, at the time of making this video, are kind of hard nerfed. Otherwise, that would be a good option. We can't really make armor yet, so we don't really have to think about that because we need to get a higher tech level for that. So let's upgrade this house and see if there's some other house we can upgrade as well. That's great. So we got 2 upgraded houses, which means we can do like both spears and shields. For that, we also need iron. So let's put a mining pit over here. It's a bit far away, but we don't need that much of it to begin with. And also we need to melt that iron. Go to industry tab, into iron slabs. I will put the bloomery over here where I have kind of the rest of the production facilities. I think because I have storage and stuff over here. Let's see, maybe just over here. It's also probably time to move our logging camp. It seems like we don't have that many trees around. So I will just choose this one, logging camp. And this forest got to go anyway, so let's place another. I will save the other logging camp for now. I will not remove it. The reason for that being that in reality logging camps are the only place that you can actually store timber. So it doesn't really matter if you have a logging camp around that you don't really use currently. It's still worthwhile to have it around to store your timber. So anyway, we got a few things to build now, so let's get those ones built. Both the Burgage plots here are now upgraded to level 2, which means our settlement increased to a medium village, so the next goal is a large village. We got another one of these development points, and we can construct the higher level types of extensions, like the blacksmith shop. That, however, as well as the joiner's workshop, cost planks, so let's assign one of the families back to making planks in the salt pit. I also started working on these ones again, to get a few more Burgage plots, so we always make sure to have open slots for villagers to move in. The iron mine here is not really finished, so I will put it on high priority. It's so far away, so I'm afraid they won't go there otherwise, and just prioritize everything else first. And of course we also need the bloomery done. We got a new message, and another ruler's army was sighted. Let's check the message first. What this says is that we received reports of band of raiders roaming the nearby lands. Track their movement. We will get attacked in about a year, so that will be the first raid on our town. Now, for the other thing, another army's or another ruler's army was sighted. It's over here. It means that the enemy kind of AI player will go for the bandit camp, and we need to head there as well. Even if he beats them, which he will, we don't want to fight them. We want to get the gold there, so we will immediately go to our tab for army, click these ones and rally them over here. Oh, inside of our own region, not over there, over here. That should work. If we click the army tab, we can see they are now rallying, and we have to head to that location as well. So we actually got here about the same time as the enemy Baron or the enemy AI, but I don't want to fight the camp because even though I could take it, I would probably lose most of my militia, and they would be extremely expensive or pretty much impossible to replace at this point. But I do want to loot the camp, so hopefully we can time it so that he fights the enemy AI and I loot the camp. So let's just rush to that position here. Can't really run, but I can beeline for it. That fight there will be over in no time because, well, it's a few very badly equipped outlaws against a really big army of 100 men, well-equipped men, but we do get first to the camp, and that's the important thing here. Let's speed up time a little bit. There we go, and we get a new message. So we got the spoils of war, and we can send those to the nearest town. That's a lot of gold for our town, or to our treasury, and we want to send them to the treasury because what we can do now is create new units. There is another bandit camp on the map that we do want to fight, but not with these troops. What I want to do is recruit mercenaries. So mercenaries you can hire for gold, and this is what they will cost every single month. But I don't intend to pay them more than 1 month. I will hire them, deal with the next bandit camp, get gold for that, more gold than I spend in a month for these mercenaries, and then disband them. So I will hire these ones because ranged is kind of nerfed in the current patch, like I think I mentioned previously. Hire company, sign contract, go back to the map. If we go into the army tab now, we can see that we got them somewhere on the map. They're over here. And what we do need to do now is try to beat the enemy AI to the other camp. So it's over here, and we need to get there before the enemy AI does. So what I will do is take these ones, I'll put them to run, and straight for this place. I will also take these ones to kind of, I don't know, work as a backup. If I can get there before the enemy AI does, then it's good, right? So let's do that and start moving. So we got here well before the enemy AI, and we can do a little fight. And these are, of course, the kind of same type of brigands as we are fighting. It's just that we got twice as many troops. So we should win these, even though these ones are not working at 100% effectiveness, because they have been running for quite some time. I should also bring my other troops in here. So we can see they are losing men faster than we are. And they lost, and we can now loot the camp over here. Let's run over there. I think my troops won't even get here in time. We get a new message. Again, we send it to our treasury. We now have 226 gold. We got a bunch of influence as well, because this time we were actually clearing the camp. Now we just take these ones and we disband them, and we don't have to pay for them more. And we can bring our troops home to our village to, well, celebrate and start working the fields. Also, the enemy AI is claiming Wallbrand. Don't worry about it. The enemy AI will claim kind of a lot of territories. It's nothing we really can do about it, because the only way we can stop him is by challenging him to a fight, and we can't really fight him right now. So that will have to wait. At this point, we should also upgrade a few more buildings to level 2 to earn a bit more money. So let's see if we can actually get 5 of them upgraded to move to the next level. As well as probably add a bit more ways to get food. There wasn't really a point adding a vegetable garden in the winter, because they wouldn't grow anything anyway, but now it is. It costs 15. It's a lot better than the chicken coop, because the chicken coop costs 25. The vegetable garden is cheaper, but also the chicken coop doesn't really scale. So with a huge backyard like the one we created here, we will actually get a lot more food out of it. Just make sure to build it in a house that is actually occupied, so I will build it in this one. There we go. As we make more money, I will add a few more of these kind of backyard vegetable gardens. Another bandit camp showed up, so I'm just taking care of that here. Some extra gold and some extra influence. That will hopefully mean we can actually get another region. Let's see, let's fight this here. I just have the normal spear militia here as a backup. I don't think I will need it, despite these ones being tired from running. And there we go, they're broken. Let's send these ones to loot. We can see the fame going up again, or the influence. And my spear militia should head home to start working the fields. And some more gold for our treasury. And now we disband these ones again. Like this. I think this system is a bit broken. As long as you kind of manage to nail that first one and get that gold, you can really abuse the system to get a lot of influence and a lot of gold for your treasury early on. I think this is something that the developers should probably take a look at, because it's a bit too good. As soon as we have enough population, I will build the blacksmith extension and the joiner's workshop. But before I do that, I want to talk about the mining pit. I have assigned someone here who actually isn't here working yet, probably because it's so far from the village. Anyway, you can see here that we only got 193 iron. That means we will actually run out after a while. Not the early game, but kind of the early late game, which means we have to conquer more regions to get more iron or trade for it. And when talking about trading, I want to talk about the tick tree some more. So except for the berries and wildlife, the other resources run out. You can construct a deep mining if you have a rich deposit, but we don't, right? So we don't have that as an option. If we want to trade for stuff, that is really expensive. So let's put stuff into perspective. Like a medium-sized town might make you like 30 gold a month. 1 iron costs 13 gold. unless you get the better deals, then it costs 3 because it reduces the prices by 10. So if you get better deals, then you trade and like you import and export to the same price. And without it, the price difference is so big that you can just forget about importing anything without ruining your economy. You can never really make up for the cost of importing stuff by exporting stuff. I think like the trade in the current version of the early access Manor Lords is not really balanced. You shouldn't be forced to take one. That one is too good and it's too punishing not to have it. The same way actually with internal trade later on. You're supposed to specialize between regions, but the way you kind of move goods between the regions is it's kind of hard to move enough goods, and you also always have to trade for a good. You can't just, it's not always you want to trade, sometimes you just want to send goods one way and you can't really do that. So that's something I think they need to take a look at. So that kind of concludes the early to the early mid game, and what we can do now is just wait for more population while speeding ahead into the summer. Keep creating houses to make sure we have places for people to move into, and prepare for the harvest in the winter. As soon as we have enough population, also of course create the joiner's workshop and the blacksmith workshop and start creating shields and spears to keep growing our army. When we close in on the harvest, we also need a windmill and a communal oven, or from the tech tree get the bakeries. By now you can probably tell that Manor Lords is a great survival city builder with some deep and interesting mechanics. There are some balance issues, some systems that are not fully developed or lacking, and some stuff that needs improving. But the foundation is pretty damn good. What it is not, however, is total war. The fighting, like I mentioned in the beginning, is very far apart and it's very small skirmishes. There are not that many bugs. I haven't really encountered any game-breaking ones. I think it is kind of within what is acceptable for an early access title. I crashed to desktop once so far and I played for quite a lot of hours. How much more Manor Lords content I will be making on my channel will to some extent depends on the performance of this video. So don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you did like it. I wish I would be able to make videos even if no one's watching, just for me, but I don't work like that. If no one is actually watching the videos, I have a really hard time getting the energy to put something together. But I would like to continue this Let's Play, continue guides for Manor Lords, but only if there's actually interest and someone watching the videos. If I am to ask you to subscribe to this channel, and I'm about to, then I think it's just fair that you get to know what you can expect in return. I play mostly survival crafting games, like Enshrouded for example, but also survival city builders, like in this case Manor Lords. I do Let's Plays, Let's Builds, but I also mix it up with like a bit of top lists or previews of upcoming titles. So if that is something that you think could be worthwhile to watch, then maybe subscribing is something for you. Well, I think that was all for this video. Cheers!